California continuously ranks high as one of the country's most expensive states to live in. The average price of a home in California is about $797,000, and only 25% of the state's households could even afford that.
How about the fact that most California houses, this is from the LA Times, most California houses sell for over $900,000.
Look, I'm going to say something that's going to upset a lot of people, and I don't care. If you are thinking about buying a home in California right now, in 2025, 2026, you need to stop and really think about what you're walking into, and I mean really think. Because what's happening in California isn't just, oh, it's expensive. We all knew it was expensive. It's been expensive. That's not news. What's happening now is something different, something structural, something that honestly I don't think enough people are talking about with any kind of honesty. And I'm Jason, by the way, and I got to get this off my chest because I've been sitting with this for a while. So let's just start with the basics, right? The median home price in California right now is around $900,000. Let that sit for a second. $900,000. Nationally, the median is about $415,000, which is already insane, by the way. But California is more than double that. Double. So you're a young couple, you've done everything right, you went to school, you got your degrees, you got decent jobs, and you're looking at a starter home, not a mansion, not some compound in Malibu, a starter home, a little place with a yard where maybe your kid can run around, and it's $900,000. Your monthly payment on that with current rates, you're looking at somewhere around $5,500 to $6,000 a month, just the mortgage. We haven't talked about anything else yet. That's before property taxes, before insurance, before you fix the leaky faucet, before you do anything. And by the way, who has $18,000 for a 20% down payment? Who? Like, genuinely, who are these people? Because it's not the average person working a normal job, I can tell you that. And if you don't have 20% down, great, now you're paying PMI on top of everything else, so the payment's even higher. It's actually laughable if it wasn't so devastating. But here's the thing. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is what nobody wants to say out loud. The price isn't even the biggest problem anymore. I know, that sounds insane. How could $900,000 not be the biggest problem? Because there's something else that's happening in California right now that is honestly, I think it's going to fundamentally break the housing market there, and it's the insurance crisis. You guys know what's been happening, right? Major insurance companies, State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, they've been pulling out of California, just leaving, not reducing coverage, leaving. State Farm alone dropped like 72,000 policies. And you go, okay, well, why? And the answer is actually pretty simple. Wildfires. California has had devastating wildfire seasons back to back to back. The 2025 LA fires alone, we're talking about entire neighborhoods just gone. Palisades, Altadena, gone. Billions in damages. And insurance companies looked at that and said, we can't do this anymore. The math doesn't work. And they're right, by the way. The math doesn't work. You can't insure properties in areas that burn down every 3 years at rates people can afford. You just can't. So what happens when your insurance company leaves? Well, you go to the California Fair Plan, which is the state's insurer of last resort. And I want you to understand what insurer of last resort means. It means the coverage is bare bones and the premiums are astronomical. People are seeing their insurance costs go from like $1,500 a year to $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year. And some people, and this is real, some people can't get insurance at all. At all. And guess what? If you can't get insurance, you can't get a mortgage. Banks won't lend on an uninsured property. So now you can't even buy the house if you wanted to. Like, think about that for a second. You have the money, you want to buy the house, and you literally can't because no one will insure it. That's not a housing market. I don't even know what that is. That's a hostage situation. And then on top of all of this, you've got the regulatory environment. Oh man, the regulatory environment. California has some of the strictest building codes and zoning laws in the entire country. Which, look, I get it. You want safe buildings, you want environmental protections, fine. Nobody's arguing against that in principle. But what it means in practice is that it takes forever to build anything, and it costs a fortune when you do. You want to know why there aren't enough homes in California? It's not because there's no land. It's not because builders don't want to build. It's because by the time you get through the permitting process and the environmental reviews and the community hearings and the lawsuits, and there are always lawsuits, it's been 4 years and you've spent millions before you've poured a single foundation. So nothing gets built. And when nothing gets built, supply stays low. And when supply stays low, prices stay high. Econ 101, right? But nobody wants to touch the regulations because it's politically toxic. So we just let it happen. And here's what really gets me. Here's what honestly keeps me up sometimes. The people who already own homes in California, they're fine. More than fine. They've got Prop 13, which basically locks in their property tax rate from when they bought the house. So you've got people who bought in the 80s or 90s paying like $3,000 a year in property taxes on a home that's now worth $2 million. And the person next door who just bought, they're paying $20,000 for the same house, essentially. How is that fair? How is that anything close to fair? And I'm not even saying Prop 13 is all bad. It protects elderly people on fixed incomes from getting taxed out of their homes, and that's a legitimate concern. But the side effect is that it creates this massive, massive gap between the haves and the have-nots. The people who got in early are sitting on gold mines paying nothing, and everyone else is locked out. And that generational divide, that's real. That's tearing at the fabric of communities in California. And then you layer on the California state income tax, the highest in the nation, by the way, up to 13.3%. So you're paying federal taxes, you're paying the highest state income tax in America, and you're trying to scrape together money for a $900,000 house with $10,000 a year insurance premiums. And you wonder why people are leaving. Because they are leaving. For the first time in California's modern history, more people are moving out than moving in. They're going to Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, Tennessee, places where you can actually, buy a house, like a regular house with a yard, where your kids can go to a decent school and you're not spending 75% of your income on housing. That's not a crazy dream. That's the most basic, fundamental American aspiration there is. And California has made it impossible for a huge number of people. And look, I love California. I do. I've spent a lot of time there. The weather's incredible. The coastline is one of the most beautiful places on earth. The culture, the food, the diversity of landscapes. There's genuinely nowhere else like it. And that's what makes this so heartbreaking. Because you've got this paradise that has been made unlivable for regular people through a combination of insane prices, an insurance market that's collapsing, regulations that prevent building, a tax structure that punishes newcomers, and natural disasters that are only getting worse. And nobody in a position of power is sitting down and saying, how do we actually fix this? Like systemically, how do we make California a place where a teacher or a firefighter or a nurse can buy a home and raise a family? Instead, what you get is Band-Aids, little programs here and there, down payment assistance that covers like 3% of $1 million home. Great, thanks, very helpful. So my honest advice, and you can disagree, that's fine. My honest advice is, unless you are already wealthy, unless you have family money or a tech salary that puts you in the top 5%, do not buy a home in California right now. Just don't. Not because it's a bad state, not because the people aren't great, but because the math, the cold, hard, brutal math, does not work in your favor. And it's not going to for a long time. Not until the people running that state wake up and make some really difficult, really unpopular decisions. And I'm not holding my breath on that. That's just the reality. And I think you guys deserve to hear it from someone who's not trying to sell you something. Anyway, that's where I'm at. Let me know in the comments. Are you in California? Are you thinking about leaving? Have you already left? I genuinely want to hear your stories because I think this conversation matters. And if this helped you at all or made you think, hit that subscribe button. I'm Jason. I'll see you guys in the next one.